In the middle of the Nara period, Fujiwara no Nakamaro was at the center of Japan and his power gradually grew stronger. However, there were also people who were opposed to his methods. The most prominent of these was Tachibana no Naramaro. The conflict between the two eventually escalated into a major incident. To understand the background to this incident, let me first explain about the Emperor of Japan at the time, Empress Koken. Empress Koken was the daughter of Shomu Emperor and Empress Dowager Komyo. She inherited the throne as Emperor of Japan from her father. However, she was single and had no children to inherit the throne. Therefore, from the beginning of her reign, there were voices of opposition to Empress Koken's ascension to the throne because she had no heir. Opposition to Empress Koken was widespread among nobility and officials. Due to this situation, the reign of Empress Koken was a time of political turmoil. Her position as Emperor of Japan was also unstable. The one who supported Empress Koken was her mother, Empress Dowager Komyo. Empress Fujiwara clan's fundamental desire was to strengthen the power of the Empress Dowager Komyo. Therefore, she wanted her daughter, who was of Fujiwara clan blood, to become the Emperor of Japan. She gave an important position to Fujiwara no Nakamaro, one of the most talented members of the Fujiwara clan. She wanted to create a system in which she would have real political power. But there was a problem with that. At the center of politics at that time were the minister of the left, Tachibana no Maru, and the minister of the right, Fujiwara no Toyonari, the older brother of Fujiwara no Nakamaro. There were people who held a higher position than Fujiwara no Nakamaro. As a result, Fujiwara no Nakamaro was not able to easily take control of politics. So Empress Dowager Komyo and Fujiwara no Nakamaro devised a new plan. That is the establishment of the Shibi Chudai. The Shibi Chudai was an organization that managed events surrounding Empress Dowager Komyo. But that was just a pretense. In reality, Shibi Chudai was an office that received orders from Empress Dowager Komyo and issued instructions to officials. Originally, under the Ritsuryo system, it was the role of the Daiyukin to give instructions to officials and run politics. However, Empress Dowager Komyo began to influence politics through Shibi Chudai. Fujiwara no Nakamaro was appointed as the chief of this Shibi Chudai. Thus, the center of national politics shifted from the Daiyukin to Shibi Chudai. At the command of Empress Dowager Komyo, a system was created in which Fujiwara no Nakamaro took the lead in politics. As a result, the authority of Empress Koken and the Daiyukin was greatly restricted. It has become an institution that is largely irrelevant. However, Fujiwara no Nakamaro valued the Ritsuryo codes above all else. He did not think it was a good idea to conduct politics in the Shibi Chudai, which was not stipulated in the Ritsuryo codes. He hoped that one day he would take control of the Daiyukin and be able to govern. He considered Shibi Chudai to be a temporary measure until then. Fujiwara no Nakamaro conducted politics based on this idea. In this way, Empress Dowager Komyo and Fujiwara no Nakamaro ran the country under a unique system. Despite operating under such an unusual system, political balance was somehow maintained. This was thanks to the existence of Shomu Emperor, who was still alive as Gyoko. Another factor was the influence of Tachibana no Maru, who headed the Daiyukin. However, Tachibana no Maru retired from politics and Shomu Emperor of Gyoko passed away. This caused the balance to be upset and the country was thrown into a state of political instability. The trigger was, as expected, the issue of succession. Emperor Shomu was also concerned about the fact that Empress Koken had no children. Just before his death, he thought, when I die, politics will be in chaos. He died leaving a will naming Prince Funato as crown prince. Prince Funato was the grandson of Emperor Tenmu. The exact reasons why he was selected are unknown. Prince Funato's father was of imperial family and Fujiwara clan descent. Shomu Emperor was also of imperial family and Fujiwara clan descent. He may have felt an affinity with Prince Funato, who was in a similar position to himself. However, it was Empress Dowager Komyo and Empress Koken who were left behind who had trouble with his succession. Fujiwara no Nakamaro was also in trouble. Without consulting them at all, the decision was made to appoint Funadu as crown prince. So, less than a year after the death of Shomu Emperor, the three of them argued that Funadu should be removed from his position as crown prince. They insisted that a new crown prince should be chosen and asked their subjects for their opinion. Many members of the imperial family were candidates. Empress Dowager Komyo and Fujiwara no Nakamaro rejected all the candidates, each giving their own reasons. Finally, they made Prince Wui the crown prince. At that time, Prince Wui was raised at Fujiwara no Nakamaro's residence. He loved Fujiwara no Nakamaro like a father. Therefore, making Prince Wui the crown prince was a great opportunity for Fujiwara no Nakamaro to further strengthen his influence in politics. In this way, Fujiwara no Nakamaro succeeded in making Prince Wui, who followed his opinions, the crown prince. He gained more political power and took control of politics.
Fujiwara no Nakamaro's politics were modeled on that of the Tang dynasty, the most powerful dynasty in East Asia at the time. He aimed for virtuous politics based on Confucian ideals. As a result, Fujiwara no Nakamaro implemented a series of innovative policies that placed emphasis on the Ritsuryo codes. The most important of these was the implementation of the Euro Code. This Euro Code was compiled by Fujiwara no Fuito, the grandfather of Fujiwara no Nakamaro. However, at that time in Japan, the preparations were not yet complete for fully implementing this Ritsuryo codes. Even after the Euro Code was completed, it was not enforced for a long time. Fujiwara no Nakamaro established a system for stable governance of the nation by officially enacting the Euro Code. However, Fujiwara no Nakamaro had come to have such great power. Naturally, there will be people who oppose this. One of the most prominent figures among them is Tachibana no Naramaro, the son of Tachibana no Maru. Tachibana no Maru had lost the power struggle and died in despair. Tachibana no Naramaro was in a cornered position. In such circumstances, Prince Wui, recommended by Fujiwara no Nakamaro, became the crown prince. Tachibana no Naramaro no longer saw any hope for his future. So Tachibana no Naramaro gathered together people who were dissatisfied with Fujiwara no Nakamaro. He finally planned a coup. The plan was to kill Fujiwara no Nakamaro and imprison Empress Dowager Komyo. Furthermore, the plan was on a grand scale, which included dethroning Empress Koken, removing her position as crown prince from her position, and installing a new emperor of Japan. Tachibana no Naramaro held a meeting to advance his plan. The scale of the plan was so great that information about it was leaked. Through informants, Tachibana no Naramaro's movements were known to some extent. Empress Koken and Empress Dowager Komyo attempted to settle the situation peacefully. However, with his life in danger, Fujiwara no Nakamaro could not afford to compromise. He immediately mobilized his troops and suppressed Tachibana no Naramaro. He used this opportunity to wipe out all those who opposed him. This series of events is known as the Tachibana no Naramaro incident. Fujiwara no Nakamaro thus arrested those involved in the coup plot one after another. The mastermind, Tachibana no Naramaro, and many others involved were tortured and lost their lives. The total number of people punished ultimately reached 443. The forces opposing Fujiwara no Nakamaro were virtually wiped out. Furthermore, the spite was even directed at Fujiwara no Nakamaro's real brother, Fujiwara no Toyonari. Fujiwara no Nakamaro believed that the Ritsuryo codes was more important than anything else. In order to govern the country based on the Ritsuryo codes, he believed that he had to take complete control of the Daiyukin. He criticized Toyonari, the minister of the right, for not responding appropriately as head of the Daiyukin despite knowing about the coup plot. He expelled Toyonari because as the minister of the right he could not tolerate such behavior. In this way, Fujiwara no Nakamaro succeeded in seizing real power within the Daiyukin. He made his political system stronger. In this way, Fujiwara no Nakamaro gained political power. Empress Koken abdicated to Owayo and Emperor of Japan Junin ascended to the throne. As I explained earlier, Emperor Junin looked up to Fujiwara no Nakamaro like a father. In other words, an emperor of Japan who accepted Fujiwara no Nakamaro's wishes was born. When Emperor Junin ascended to the throne, he said that in order to rule the country, he needed wise and capable subjects to assist him. He declared that he would rule together with Fujiwara no Nakamaro. He also said that Fujiwara no Nakamaro was credited with preventing a coup d'etat plot. As a reward, he gave him a new name. Thus, Fujiwara no Nakamaro came to call himself Emino Oshikatsu. As a result, Fujiwara no Nakamaro established his position as a prominent figure within the Fujiwara clan.